it's the proudest day and the proudest time in the seat of a rally car, because that day and that hour and those minutes, I got the bit between my teeth. You know, I really stood up and was counted and said, this is not getting away. I remember when we pulled on our helmets and Donald says to me, what are we doing? I said, we're going for gold, Barrett. That's all we said. I can still picture that run. It was just the best run ever.
Welcome along to Krunching Gears, the Rally Podcast, Season 2, Episode 14. Before we start this week's episode, we would like to pay our deepest respects and condolences to Sarah Moynihan Purcell, Dickie Curran and Joseph Conlon, son of Mickey Conlon, a seasoned competitor. What can we say? Deep condolences to all the families there. It's been a hard few weeks for Irish Rally. And back to this week's show, as always, welcome along Conor Edwards, and a special co-host this week again, Luke Barry. Lads, you're very welcome along.
Thanks, Kevin. Good to be here.
Thanks very much, boys. Always nice to be on and chat a bit of Irish rallying, but I just want to echo that. I think it's, from our side of the pond, I think we're all with you guys. It's been the most difficult few weeks I think you could have ever have expected. But it's great that we have had some good results from an Irish perspective to talk about from the weekend as well, which I'm sure we will get into.
Absolutely, yep, absolutely. Yeah, we've got, we keep saying it, jam-packed show, but once again, we just went a bit in the mad side. We catch up with Josh McErlean, who was just basically off a plane and landed into Poland. Jamie McMillan, who had just landed home with an airplane from Portugal. Jon Armstrong, who was getting ready to get on a plane to go to Poland. We also caught up with Marty Toner, who was just back from the Isle of Man. Tommy Moffett, who's in Germany after competing the weekend, and Crawford Henderson then, who tells us all about the Tour of the Sperrins coming up. But as Luke alluded to there, what a way to get us back in a positive frame of mind. The weekend in Portugal, what can we say? Josh McErlean and John Rowan, superb performance. Like, they didn't look into this; they were on the pace right from the get-go. Maybe your first experience, you were keeping an eye on the guys there over the weekend as well.
Yeah, and I have to say, we obviously know, particularly for Josh and John, how difficult the last month has been. So for them to, respond to all of that difficult energy with this kind of performance was great. And I think Josh maybe said it himself, but for me, it's definitely his most impressive performance in WRC. I think this, as you say, the way everything was done on the front foot, there was no mistakes. He controlled the rally and he showed good speed, and it's the whole point of what the academy is doing, the Motorsport Ireland Rally Academy. It's giving these guys the opportunities to progress and learn. And he's done a couple of years now at this level, but this was the first. I say first, I'm a bit harsh, but it was one of the sort of real chances we got to see what Josh can do when he's just out there and ready to fight with speed. And in a field as competitive as that, I think it was 43 Rally 2 cars, and we all know how good the entry was. So to stand out in amongst that lot was great. And I think what he said at the end of the rally as well, I sent him a message actually just as soon as he did it, and just said really nice words, because I think it summed up how everybody was feeling, and it's great. And obviously I can't speak, I'm not part of the Irish Rally community, but for me, even from I say our side of the pond in the UK, it made me smile that we got that kind of result for Ireland, given what's happened. I think he can be proud of himself, and he's got plenty more opportunities, very busy few weeks coming up, to showcase what he can do again.
Yeah, and like Conor, like what Luke was saying there, we forget, because Josh has been about a few years now. We kind of think he's one of the older heads. He's still such a young guy, and but to have such a wise and solemn head on him come the end of the rally, to have those words, it speaks a hell of a lot for the guy. Like, we've got to know him through the podcast. We know the good lad he is, but that was exceptional what he done there at the stop line.
Oh, listen, he's an old man's head on young man's shoulders. Combination, two things. What do you call it? His ability to keep that rally under control, not to get carried away, not to overextend himself, to have a good measured control drive. And again, I was blown away. It was great that we got to see him on, WRC Plus, being interviewed at the stage ends, but he was so calm, collected, very well spoken, very articulate, blown away by where he is just on his journey in his rally career. And as you're right, it's a very young rally career as well.
Yeah, and like we should say, he was interviewed in Dirtfish as well. We have to keep everybody happy.
He was, yeah. My colleague spoke to him. I just want to add on his age, though. I like to think that I'm still sort of semi-young, but Josh depresses me because him and I have the same birthday, but he's 2 years younger than me. So every single year, I just know there's this guy that's driving in the WRC, and I've got 2 years on him. It's not good. I'm not used to that feeling yet, and it depresses me. But there we go. There's me being self-indulgent.
And look, you've alluded to the Rally Academy. Obviously we're very conscious here of the work that's been done and been undertaken in the development side. But is that being noticed outside of Ireland? Is that is the WRC community seeing what's been done? Are we making waves?
Yes, I think so. And I think, to be honest, as simple as it sounds, even the change to all the cars having the same livery this year, I think, has made a big difference. Because of how much everybody loved the Jordan Formula One car that it pays homage to. So it was a very smart choice. A lot of people talking. But yeah, it's sort of definitely, not that it wasn't maybe obvious. I guess for me, I'm slightly different to maybe somebody in Germany or France, where we're closer to Ireland, so we know naturally more what's going on. But it was always around. You always knew the Rally Academy was there. But with the amount of drivers now, particularly with guys like William and Eamon, both in Junior WRC, both the only two winners this year as well. And then you've got that second Hyundai that's being shared around all the drivers alongside Josh. I think it's very clear what's being done, and it's incredible. I've said it plenty of times. I said it to the guys that run it, Sean and John and everybody, that it's just the most incredible thing that's going on. I think a lot of countries could learn quite a lot from this, in that it's got real potential, and it's great to see that in the few years that they've been doing this process, there is definite progress being made, as could be seen by Josh's performance at the weekend.
For sure, for sure. And like the second car too, we can't forget about Connor, Eamon and Connor. We forget this is only Eamon's, I think, third gravel rally and a Rally 5 R2 car. To put in, top, I think times in the top 25 all weekend. It's only like a glimpse into the talent that young Eamon has already as well.
Absolutely. I'm going to hand over to Luke in a second, but yeah, you're right. He's only had a handful of runs. It's a Hyundai. He's not used to the Hyundai either. So it's a new car. There's a huge learning curve here, and the likes of Portugal, that's a fairly specialist event. And, you have that thing where you're going from stages that are sandy and loose to then being on the next stage, which is hard bedrock, and, all the setup pieces and trying to learn and understand the car. It's incredible what Eamon has done. I don't know, Luke, if you got much of a chance to follow him on the event.
Portugal, not so much, to be fair, just because of how busy I've been and I've not had enough chance to check it all back. But I think in general, Eamon's always impressed me. Not just because he's got a great beard, and not just because he bought me a Guinness in Dublin last year. There are two very good points for him, but he's always, for me, sort of defied his lack of experience. You alluded to it there, Kevin, but I think even that, I remember following his junior British championship, both of them actually, his 2 seasons in JBRC, particularly last year, where he was just dominant. I think it's fair to say he got it. He drove that thing. I don't think anybody could drive a Fiesta at Rally 4 in those rallies harder than he did. He was ready for the next step, and he has made that next step, and he doesn't look like he's a duck out of water. I know the way that Croatia worked. I think he'll be the first to admit that it's not the sort of usual way to win a rally. In the way that it was a very unique set of circumstances, but he was still there to do it. And I think this is the key thing. He's got we talked about Josh having an old head on young shoulders. I think it's exactly the same with Eamon. So actually all the guys, to be fair, I think of William as well, they're all doing really well. And it makes me kind of proud of them. Maybe it's too strong, so like I'm their father or something. But I've known these guys for quite a long time. I mean, for me as a journalist, that's quite a new experience. A lot of the time I'm sort of meeting these drivers when they're in sort of the various championships, but I've kind of gone along with them. I was doing the British champs, and now I'm kind of doing a bit of WRC when they made it as well. So we're kind of on parallel journeys in a weird way. I'm sure they don't feel the same, but I think it's quite interesting. But yeah, I've gone on a bit of a waffling tangent, as I tend to do. But yeah, Eamon's performance, I'm really excited to see what he can do in Sardinia in JWRC, and if and when he gets more chances in that Rally 2 car. Because as you say, that was for a first try in that car. And I know they're all the same in a sense, that they're 4-wheel drive Rally 2 cars, but there's a lot of differences between that and a Polo. So to get on with it as well as he did, I think was very impressive.
Yeah, it really is. It really is, And we'll come back probably to the guys later on, but the battle at the front of the field, Like last year, it was like Roving Para. We kept thinking of superlatives. How good he was, and every rally he got even better. He's been a wee bit off the boil to start the season, but Saturday morning, Roving Para of old come back, and he's what, 23.
He's not even 23. That's the
Yeah,
worst thing. He's 22.
Yeah. Look, it's incredible what he can do whenever everything falls into place.
Yeah, I think so. And I agree. It's been an interesting start to the year because it'd be wrong to call it poor, bad, or disappointing because he was second in the championship heading to this rally, just 1 point off the lead. But you're right, he wasn't performing in the same way he had last year, and there's several reasons for that. I think basically most of his rivals are now fighting at 100% there, whereas last year some of them were getting used to the car, some of them were driving for a team that was well behind everybody else. So that kind of made it, I don't want to say easy, because Cowley still did what he did, but it was a simpler task, I guess, to build the lead that he did. This year there was more things working against him, but I agree. I don't think he himself was producing sort of the magic that we got used to. So it was actually really comforting to see. I think we all knew he hadn't lost it, but it was great to see that when everything came together, he was capable of this sort of stuff. But it was, as you say, that Saturday morning stage, there was a lot of debate at the time whether that was Rothenper's best day in a rally car. I know he himself said it wasn't, but you couldn't then say what was. So to me, I think it definitely was up there if it wasn't the best. But yeah, it was incredible drive. I think the Friday performance to be leading the rally after starting second on the road is incredible. I think that gets overlooked because he gave himself that great opportunity to do what he did on the Saturday. But yeah, I think pre-season he was still my title favourite. I think it's now looking more likely that he will be, given the troubles that others had. And I know we're only 5 rounds in, but I think give Cowley a bit of a breather like he's got now, and it's going to be quite difficult for the others to rein him in.
That's for sure. And Connor, Elfyn Evans went off on Friday. So he had, the way that Roving Para went at it on Saturday morning, and still probably in the back of his head, he had to bring it home for the team as well. That makes it even more impressive what he done.
Absolutely. Manufacturers' points were on the line as well as the championship points for himself. He again seemed to have a fairly hassle-free rally, kept himself, out of any mischief, out of any trouble, avoided any punctures, had a good solid drive. And you got a feel for Elfyn. We all thought after Croatia, it was looking like he'd bounced back and was getting to grips and starting to look or feel comfortable in that Yaris. And unfortunately, it's just gone away from him, and there's an event now with no points.
Yeah, for sure. And for the other teams, Hyundai, they're not far away now. They're keep nipping at the heels. But that strong dominant performance on the Saturday morning, they were in with a fight and chance. And Danny what can we say? The guy keeps coming back, and he's closer to my age than he is to yours. Look, and it is superb what he's doing.
Well, I think aside from Cowley, he's obviously the antithesis to what I'm about to say. I think being sort of 40 and over as a rally driver now is how to do it. We see what Sebastian Loeb keeps doing. Ogier's not quite 40, but he's not far off. And then we've got Danny Soto, turned 40 the week before Portugal, and then he put in his best performance in a Rally 1 car. So I think age is just a number, as they say, and I think Danny definitely proved that. But I was really happy to see that it is a rally he's always gone well on. It's a rally he feels comfortable with because it's near to his neighbouring Spain. I'm sure it is actually closer than where Rally Catalunya was when we still had it in the calendar to his sort of home. So it is essentially a home rally for him, which, as we know, can give you a bit of a boost. But the speed was impressive. He was, over the weekend, the quickest of the Hyundais. And I honestly cannot remember the last time that was the case. I think Thierry was surprisingly off the pace. He just didn't... We know he's got a bit of a knack, maybe knack's the wrong word, but there's a bit of a trend continuing now where Fridays tend to be a bit more difficult and he sort of hammers them on Saturday. But this time he struggled to find it, and I'm not quite sure we quite got to the bottom of what exactly he was looking for from the car, but something wasn't working. But Danny found it. Danny was hot on it, and it has to be said, Esa-Pekka Lappi's, I think, has been brilliant this season so far. Yeah. I was one that questioned his move to Hyundai. I didn't really, as much as I could see the appeal in a full season compared to a half season, he just looked so happy back at Toyota. But he's proved me wrong. I think he's probably proved a lot of people wrong with how he started the year. I think aside from Monte Carlo, he probably could have been on the podium on every rally he's had the speed to. which is incredible. So he's in a weird place. He's almost a title contender, but not quite. He's a little bit too far back. So had Sweden or McErlean gone differently, he very much would have been there, which nobody expected of him. But yeah, it's going to be a good race. I think compared to last year when we had Hyundai struggling at the start, them and Toyota are both very close at the championship. I think it's about 30 points that splits them, which one sort of difficult weekend for Toyota and Hyundai go ahead. So it's anybody's game. I think it'll be interesting to see if and when the cars develop and if somebody gains any kind of advantage as the season goes on.
That's for sure. That's for sure. And Connor, we can't overlook the M Sport car. It's a different animal than what we were seeing on the stages last year.
Absolutely, and just before we get on to M Sport, I'm just with I suppose with Lappy's performance, which has been fantastic, but he's not quite there yet. I think it probably makes Searle's job easier with regard to the fact that they're backing Thierry for the championship. It probably just takes that bit of pressure for Ryan team orders and that type of thing off the team. But yeah, the M Sport's definitely that Puma is improving. Tannock's getting to grips. He's getting the issues ironed out. They're constantly working, and as we'll hear from Jamie later on, there's a lot going on behind the scenes there, and it literally is debrief after debrief after debrief with Hoyt to get that car to where he is going to feel comfortable with it, or thinks or feels he'll be comfortable with it.
I think it's going to be worrying for the rest whenever he hits that sweet spot.
Yeah, this is what I think is. Sorry, Connor, I've cut across you, but just because he's only 17 points off, I think, the lead, isn't he? So he's the closest to everybody. So the fact that he's there, he's already won a rally when things aren't quite right. It does make you wonder if everything was together, just how almost dominant, how far ahead, how good could he be? And he's already great as it is. But I think I have to say, I've not heard the piece you've done with Jamie, but I'm fascinated to hear it because I suspect working at M Sport this year certainly isn't the easiest task. There'll be plenty of late nights and long hours going in. But as a team, you want that. You want to be pushed. You want to know where you're at. And with Tanak, there can be sort of no doubts about anything. If they give him the car that he needs, he will deliver. And that's the challenge. And it'll spur them on to know that if everything comes together, they will win rallies. They probably will win a championship. So it's exciting times there. I guess it's just what they've got to hope is that Rovanperä and Toyota or anybody else doesn't take too huge a march while they've still got maybe one or two fingers tied behind their back. Sorry, Kevin and Connor.
No,
I interrupted.
No,
not at all. What I was going to say was just with regard to the Puma, reliability issues. There didn't seem to really be any this rally. That was good to see. So there wasn't anything around the power steering. There wasn't anything around the understeer side of things. So maybe those things are getting sorted now. And then the other thing, my own impression from seeing Tanak at the stage ends, in Croatia and in Portugal, he seems more relaxed than I recall seeing him. He seems to be, more comfortable, both maybe within himself as well as, the car.
You've probably seen that more firsthand than the likes of Connor and myself. What's your thoughts on that one?
Way to put pressure on me to come up with a good answer. Yeah, I would agree. I think he's interesting in the media zone. He's the hardest driver, I think, because he plays you. He finds it a challenge. You ask any kind of bad question, and he knows it, and he takes pleasure in giving you a really simple answer to catch you out. So you really have to be on your game with him. But he does. I think he is happy with his move. Everything works. It's just he needs. It's more. I think it's more precision from the car. He just needs something to be more at home, and it's obviously it's not that everything's far away. It's just that to be 100% perfect is what he's searching for. He's demanding character that wants everything to be that way, which is good. But I have to agree, particularly in Portugal, a lot of his lines were particularly witty and quite funny. Even in a situation where he's maybe frustrated, he has some good one-liners, which is a side we probably haven't always seen from Tanak. So yeah, I think, and I'm sure he's happy with life. He just needs a little bit more performance and comfort from his car, I think.
I think it's such fine margins, there's no doubt about it. But I think without further ado, I think we'll cut across and we'll hear from Josh McErlean.
So, Josh, Monday after a big weekend, how was it?
Yeah, it was definitely an adventure. It was a very solid weekend, I'd say. There was a lot of positives to take from it. Obviously, a very good result, being 12th overall and second WRC2 Challenger is quite incredible looking at the field going into the event. But yeah, the experience of the past 2 years, I would say, came into play a lot. Knowing when to push and when not to push was quite vital to try to get to the finish, let alone get a good result. So no, everything went to plan, and I think everyone could be happy with the weekend.
And you mentioned plan, and we see that with the academy. It's the key to these events. What was the plan like when you were setting out Thursday evening? What was the target? What was you and John? What was the focus on?
Obviously, rallying, there's a lot of variables in it. The plan can change quite quickly, but I think in general, we knew the second pass was going to get rough and tough, which it definitely did. But on the first pass of stages, you could push on and show some speed as well as consistency. So no, going into Friday morning, we knew that the first loop was okay. Our road position was quite low, still quite far back compared to what we were on Saturday and Sunday. But yeah, the road was quite rough whenever we got there first pass. But we knew that we had to try and make the most of the first pass conditions, because going into second pass, it's about survival realistically, and punctures is a huge thing in this rally or in that rally. So I think we, on the first stage Friday morning, we got into a good rhythm. What were we, 17th fastest, 8th in WRC2, and whenever you take 3 seconds out of Chris Meek, it's not so bad. So no, I think starting off Friday morning in good rhythm was key to the weekend.
And the stages, some of the stages seem to be quite loose and sandy, and others were going down to bedrock very quickly. How do you kind of keep the rhythm with them changing like that so much?
Yeah, Portugal's a place where the stage changes stage by stage. It's like more south you get, the more bedrock there is in the road, or there's more loose stones. So Friday was quite south down in Coimbra. So yeah, this was going to be the toughest day with no service. All you had was what you had in the car with the tire fitting zone midday, and we actually chose quite a soft tire package for the first loop. And I think after the second stage, the tires were quite short. So getting to that tire fitting with no mistakes was important. But then going into the evening, we knew it was going to be rough with all hards. Everyone knew the tires for that stage. And yeah, it was going into the last couple of stages. We didn't have any spares left. So it was another point of let's get through this. I think in stage 6, we dropped a minute, but that was just pure survival. There was no actual issue with anything. It was just we had no tires left.
Yeah, and just you mentioned Chris Meek there. Chris was interviewed before the start, just at the shakedown, and he says coming out of Rally 1, and and there's 8-10 competitors, to suddenly having 30 guys, all 30, 35 guys, all in equal cars, equal footing. This was where it was at. The main focus is on Rally 1. But the main competition is in Rally 2. That is where the action is, really, isn't it?
Yeah, the entry list was incredible. And even talking to Chris before, he didn't know what to expect or what to think. Okay, he did have an issue on Friday morning with the car, but still there was, 6 WRC2 or WRC drivers in WRC2. So that was the competition. You can't get any higher. I think if any WRC driver would come back to WRC2, it's the same situation. But no, it's good to have these benchmarks, because that's what you're ultimately trying to get towards. And it was nice to be in the mix in some of the stages.
And to have the likes of Chris there, are you able to bounce off him and get a few tips from him? Is he forthcoming when it comes to help?
Yeah, there's no doubt about that. It's probably the first proper time meeting him in person. Okay, I had a lot of contact through messages and stuff, but he's been away from home for a long time. Craig was a great guy for that there, to be honest. Even before FAF and going into Croatia and stuff like this here, it was a good help. And you talk about that Phil Garage stage, it was Craig's onboard from FAF that probably took that time, because I knew after FAF that he was the quickest through it, and it was even quicker than WRC2 the previous year. So I knew that was the onboard to watch, to try see what he could do.
And what, no better man to guide you. We should mention Craig here at this time. he had took you under his wing. We know the close relationship he had with Jon, though. Like, he's going to be a great loss to Irish Rally.
There's no doubt about that. I think everyone's has talked about it before, but yeah, it's a great loss for even us young guys coming up, because he's been there and done it, and to lose him and lose all the information he had is incredible, let's say. But yeah, we have to make the most of what we have and the onboards left in WRC Plus to try figure out ourselves.
Connor, you want to jump back in there?
Yeah, and Josh, obviously, you had the experience of Rally Faith, a few weeks back. How much of a difference did that make, especially considering, the other WRC2 guys you're competing against are well experienced with those stages, having mainly competed in Portugal for the last few years on Rally Portugal?
No doubt, that's why we went to FAF, was to get the experience for Portugal and to test different things. There was two stages similar to what was in FAF. OK Friday was quite different from the surface and the nature of the stages, let's say. But no, that's why we went to FAF ultimately, to get the mileage and the experience to go into Portugal and use it to the best we could. Yeah,
and obviously difference in the weather conditions. And I think when you did it, it was monsoon conditions almost.
Yeah, it was quite monsoon. A boat would have been maybe better than FAF and a rally car, but no, there's no doubt experience of these events, and even being going into Poland this weekend is huge going forward, going into these fast rallies in the WRC.
Yeah, and again, just looking at the weekend again, you'd fairly issue free. I think you had one or two tire delaminations, but apart from that, it was pretty much uneventful. Would that be right?
Yeah, the car ran faultlessly. The team done an incredible job, PCRS, and yeah, we worked together very closely before the event to get a good car setup on the test, in the Monday test. Everything felt very good. It was a big step forward from what I've tried before, and to give that confidence going into the rally was quite good on top of being in FAF. So no, the team done an incredible job, and it's hats off to them to get a car to finish that rally, because that's an achievement in its own. And obviously Jon Rowan as well. It's to come back from what he was through and to do that rally and to do it faultlessly was hats off to him as well.
Yes, the mark of the man, definitely. And just before we leave Portugal behind, like the other thing that happened to you over the weekend, the helicopter was following you around, and I was watching you through FAF there on the Wolf Power stage, and you were let to hang out a bit. It just must have been a joy to be in that position, that you can go out and enjoy your rally, and you're under no pressure. The car behind was far enough behind. You weren't going to catch the car in front. Was there a wee bit of let's go and have a bit of fun on this stage almost?
We're actually in the road section going to the regroup before the power stage, and I never actually thought about it, because usually it's the top five, and WRC2 would run with at the front of the power stage, but I think because there was less WRC1 cars, there was more WRC2s at the front. So no, to be starting the stage behind Terry Neville was a bit special. But yeah, going across the mountain, the helicopter following us, it was something different. I say you don't get that many days, but the road conditions were quite interesting, because obviously the two-wheel drives are the last over the stage in the previous run, and I was told going into the power stage sooner than I think it was, because from him last year, he was running first in the road and he went off in it, leading, and he says just watch the ruts, because they're two-wheel drive ruts, and there's loose sections of the road throughout the whole stage. So yeah, I would say that's why you're seeing so many trying to create traction, and obviously Neville had the problem, so he wasn't doing much to the road. So it was a bit of road cleaning too. But no, it's all part of the experience. If I can get that again,
you'll take it.
And Josh, you mentioned Timu there, and I know Timu's been involved in some of the test days you've had. Like, was he there as a source of advice and information, or was it quite competitive with Timu over the weekend?
No, he's a very open guy. He'll offer as much advice as possible, and even in the Sunday, we were running quite close to him because of the positions on the road, and no, you could bounce anything off him. He's very open in that way, and so no, it's great to work with him. Great to talk about setup and the car as well, because he's involved a lot on the development side of the car. So yeah, it's good to have this information firsthand and bounce things off him.
And the super special on Saturday night, that huge jump that was causing a lot of problems. Did you get warned about that, or?
Yeah, I got warned about it, and I went over and I still hurt myself. Yeah, it was a tough one. I don't think you could go slow enough over that jump to not do damage to yourself. But no, it was incredible atmosphere. Lasada is always the spectacular pace, thousands of people at it, and I think we were up against Samindo Rojo, who's the home hero. And it was quite special to hear the crowd from inside the car. So no, it was something different.
So coming up is Poland. What are we looking at? What's ahead of you?
We're just arrived in Poland today. I did some prep before, obviously starting into Portugal. Limited information from the rally. Friday's quite similar to last year, and Saturday's quite similar to last year, and Sunday's new, let's say. And it's fast gravel rally. Qualifying's again very important with road training. You don't want to be doing that. So I think focus on the recce is quite important. New pace notes, new roads, and get a good rhythm. But doing an event back to back is quite good because you're fairly hot going into it.
Yeah, and also with Sardinia coming up, it's that bit of extra seat time before you have another round of the WRC again.
Yeah, there's no doubt about that. Okay, it's a different type of rally, but Poland going into the likes of Estonia and Finland is where you have to use this experience from. So no, the weather's quite wet at the minute. The road conditions could get quite rutted, high-speed ruts. So we'll have to look for that during the recce, but it's all part of the experience.
And if you're looking at DVDs from last year and the weather's dry, is it completely different what you're seeing in front of you if it's wet? Like if it's wet tomorrow and wet again on Thursday or whatever, is it that changes the characteristics of the stage completely almost?
You could say that. The character of the stage is still the same. The speed's probably more or less the same, but it's just the way the ruts develop and where they're going to be, because each person takes a different line, and then there's two-wheel drive lines we were talking about, and it's just knowing what way they develop and how deep they can go, because you don't want to wreck the car either, and that's part of it as well. So no, it's just trying to predict the soft surfaces during recce and noting them as well. So no, I think recce's it's a big recce. Thursday's the only day of recce, and then it's straight into qualifying the next morning. So there's not much time to review the DVD and stuff. So just get the head down Thursday night and try make the best work.
And then obviously you're away from home this weekend. The main rally on Tour of the Sperrins. I would say, you obviously wouldn't be competing, but I'm sure your heart lies, in Harfeld somewhere along the way.
Yeah, no doubt. It's fun. I want to go and do sometime. It's 10 minutes up the road, so there's some entry list for it. It's good to see. I think the entries are full, brave and quick. So now it's looking to be a great day. Hopefully the weather plays its part and the pace is hot.
That's for sure. And Connor?
Yeah, that's it really, Josh. I suppose it's just wishing you the best for Poland, and once again, an absolutely incredible drive in Portugal, and it was great to be able to actually see you on WRC Plus and be able to follow you, as Kevin says, watching the helicopters. We were only just missing the in-car.
Maybe hopefully we can get an in-car this weekend to try and get in the ERC live, but let's see.
Yeah, huge thanks to Josh for taking the time out. Literally, he had only just checked into the hotel room before he spoke to us. So really appreciate the time. Dying to see how he gets on in Poland. And yes, hopefully it all comes true with regard to the in-car camera. And we do get to see him live on the stages. We also caught up with Jamie McMillan from M Sport, who had literally arrived back in the UK from Portugal, and it was a chance just to chat to him about the development of the Puma and the work ongoing with M Sport on that. So, Jamie, an eventful weekend in Portugal. Some highs and a few lows as well. How are the team? How's everybody at M Sport?
Yeah, all good. There's a few late nights, few early starts in Portugal, so I think everybody's catching up on a little bit of sleep today for sure. I think it was maybe 4 hours sleep on Friday night, 5 on Saturday. So, it was a difficult event, obviously for the team. Pierre not being able to finish, in where he wanted to, and he showed some pace, but ultimately, we were hoping for more to come off the back of Portugal, but still, leaving there in fourth and getting a good haul of points, another 4 points in the power stage. So moving forward, second in the championship, we can't complain too much, and everybody's ready to push and certainly very motivated to keep battling on and seeing where we can take the championship fight.
And some really good pace there. And we saw Pierre leading on the first day, and some great stage times between Tanak and Pierre as well. And punctures and accidents aside, is the pace coming with the car? Do you feel you're all going in the right direction, or is there still, for the want of a better word, a few speed bumps there?
Yeah, so I think it was all going just too well on Friday morning. We had Pierre and I in the top three. It was going fairly well, both setting stage winning times. Even Adrian was doing really well in the Rally 2 car. I think at one point after the second stage, I think we were leading Rally 1 overall and Rally 2 as well. So we were sort of pinching ourselves, thinking, it's too good to be true, and it very quickly turned out that way. But no, I think Pierre's happy with where the car is. He's been happy, throughout last season as well. He was very comfortable with the car, both on tarmac and gravel. And he was happy to use his gravel base setup from last year for this year, and you can see clearly that works for him, and he's able to be competitive with that setup. Oid drives certainly a different driving style to what Pierre has, and he likes the car set up in a very different way too. So for sure that the setups are diverging. There's not so much similar between the two, but you can see that even though they're quite different setups, they're both can work in the right window. I'd said maybe his at the minute it's a very narrow window to get the car working how he wants, and for him to be comfortable to be able to push, and that's something that we're all sort of working on and very motivated to improve that for him, and certainly bringing things forward to the tests and constantly making improvements. But Pierre honestly didn't have so many complaints. He was pretty happy with the car that he had, and was a little bit unfortunate with a few things that didn't quite go to plan for him over the weekend, or else he could have been on for a very strong result.
And the stages in Portugal, they varied between really loose sandy or quite quickly getting down to hard bedrock. That must be difficult to get a car set up to be able to cope with those two nearly extreme conditions.
Yeah, exactly that, and it's always going to be a trade-off on those sorts of stages. And Friday stages get quite rough, especially in the second pass. And Friday there was no midday service, so you had to be on the same setup really for the whole day, other than the small things that the drivers can change themselves, so roll bar positions and ride heights and things like this, damper clicks. I know it was also obviously had a quite an early road position, so out of everybody, the first few people on the road are going to see the biggest development from first to second pass. So you really need to prioritize getting traction and grip from a loose surface whenever you're cleaning the road, but also having the options and the adjustment available for you to then go out in the second pass and still be comfortable in the car. And especially those Friday stages, they got quite a bit worse than the stages on Saturday. So that was, you're in a bit of a corner in terms of setup and what you can do. So that really, at the end of the day, that was where I'd struggled the most was the second pass stages, when it was rougher and there was more bedrock and sort of bigger impacts going into the car. We weren't able to get them comfortable to be able to have the confidence to push in those sorts of conditions. But you could see that on the first pass when it was a little bit looser, he was able to set really quick times, and leading the rally going into the tire fitting zone, and then heading out for the afternoon, you had a real chance of a good result. And ultimately, the one puncture was clearly playing for all to see on TV, and you could see he had that quite early in that stage. But something he sort of had to manage through the loop as well was a D bead as well on that first stage. So he was really carrying 2 damaged tires, 1 puncture and one D bead, which he couldn't really run on the car. So he had to prioritize getting to the finish at that point, and another puncture would have ended up in a retirement. So he had to drive smart as well. So he wasn't having a full push in Saturday afternoon either. And for sure, the car changes a little bit when you're on the limit compared with whenever you're, you also need to survive, and you're thinking, about finishing the rally too. But no doubt we've got a lot of work to do for him to be comfortable and to get him, able to push on the limit again.
Yeah, and again, those differences in surface between the hard bedrock and then obviously the sandy stuff, tire pressures, is there a lot of variation in around tire pressure, and then does that add to obviously the risk of a puncture?
Yeah, absolutely. So generally first pass you can run a little bit lower, and there's less chance of punctures and impacts to the tire, and some stages as well, if it's a little bit softer at the start, and then you can allow the tire to get up to temperature and up to pressure for a rougher section of the stage. You can also try and take advantage of that. So we were changing the tire pressures for the second pass, definitely, and it's something that Pirelli communicate with us before the event. So we'll do our own engineer's recce, so we'll go and drive all the stages and make notes of how we think they're going to develop, what we think the ride height should be, whether there is a low, medium or high puncture risk on sections of the stage or overall on the stage, and then we'll compare notes with what Pirelli provide us. And I'm open and honest, for Friday afternoon we were running to Pirelli's guidelines in terms of minimum pressures. We weren't pushing the limit on that, so we weren't doing anything that we shouldn't have been, and we didn't think we were in a window that was really that risky. But unfortunately, these things can happen, and it wasn't just out. There was various Rally 2 cars as well, quite a lot of the field that ended up struggling a little bit. So it's obviously disappointing for us in terms of where we were as well, and what we could have came away with. But it's all part of the game.
Yeah, and we're in a series of loose rallies at the moment. Obviously we had Mexico, and Portugal's behind us, and Sardinia's coming up. What have you learned that will help with getting the cars ready for Sardinia, or
quite a lot, obviously. So I think one thing that maybe doesn't, let's not say it goes unnoticed, but isn't maybe talked about so much, is obviously Oit wasn't with us last year, so all the other drivers have had a full year of development with their team and have been able to drive the development direction and in whatever way they wanted. So and last year you obviously had, let's say during the development year of the Rally 1 cars, they had various development test days as well. So the guys could be in the car quite a lot and pushing the car in the direction they wanted, and we missed all that with Oit, and he's coming in and fighting against these guys who've had many more days in the car. So we're sort of learning a lot every time he does a rally, and every time he does a test. It's difficult with the number of test days we have. We're really only able to do 1 day before each event. So, you need to try and cram as much as possible into that 1 day, but ultimately that's on one road that could be, soft and sandy and may not have the bedrock or the bigger rocks that you want to set your car up for. So, it's really important you make the most of that 1 day, and we're a little bit on the back foot in that regard, and we need to really push as much as we can and as hard as possible to make a big step forward to make him make him more comfortable and happy in the car. And we're all pushing ahead with that. So as you mentioned, it's now I think 7 gravel events in a row. So we're going to be learning a lot in the next few to come up, and we need to constantly be bringing stuff to try. And it's a balancing act as well, because you learn a lot on the events, but he knows how the car feels now, so you also don't want to make massive steps in the middle of a rally, in case it doesn't quite go the right way. You're better sort of fine tuning to suit the conditions actually on the event, and you do your bigger steps in the test. But without the number of test days and the time available, it's difficult to find that balance and really try and push development forward. But yeah, we're working as hard as we can and coming up with plenty of options. And I think the test day in Sardinia is going to be really, really important. If we can make a good step forward there, then it bodes well for the upcoming events.
And Hoyt was quoted, as describing the feeling in the car as a bit of a wooden horse. Obviously it's stiffer than he liked. So what's obviously you have a debrief after a comment like that and get to the bottom of it. So how do you address that, or what's the plans to address that before Sardinia?
Yeah. So that's why he's vocal with his comments. And look, the other aspect of it is, I think he's not the only driver to complain in these conditions and these surfaces. He's just maybe a little bit more public with his comments. But look, it's nothing that he hasn't said privately, and he said a lot worse. So we know what to expect with Hoyt now to some degree. But he's clearly not happy with the suspension. I think that comment is maybe directed in the large portion of it towards the dampers, and that's something that we're working closely with Ryger to develop and come up with options for him to try and make him more comfortable. So he likes a car set up very differently to the guys last year and how we've developed it. He likes the car to be much more stable, and there's a trade-off there. It also comes from the chassis side as well. We need to be able to come up with options on the geometry to make the car a little bit stiffer in that regard, and then we can allow the damper to do a little bit more of the work in terms of absorbing the impacts and absorbing the bedrock. And it's not just down to Ryger to come up with a magic damper that fixes everything. That's not going to happen overnight. So it is a combination and making sure we have a package that makes it more comfortable and makes it work on multiple different surfaces. And clearly it's quick, and as he said himself, in a narrow window, but we need to make that much more a much greater operating window for him to be able to set stage times consistently up there and consistently win in stages, so we can go on to really have a fight in the championship. And we have data from last year. We know for the likes of both Seb and Pierre, I think we're leading in Greece last year, and Craig set some fast times there. So there's plenty of options that we have available to us, and it's just making sure that we're able to provide them with the right package to go on and really fight.
And moving to Sardinia, and it's typically a hot event, and we saw last year the issues the guys had around the heat in the cars, etc., and maybe related or unrelated to the heat in Portugal. Pierre had the exhaust fire. Is that something that you're looking at around trying to keep the cars as cool as possible and the crew as cool as possible?
Well, that was one aspect. It was quite complimentary of our car, actually, compared to the Hyundai. It's a little bit colder. So we worked quite hard all of last year to get the car as cool as possible, because it was tricky for the crews in quite a few events last year. So I think I wouldn't say on top of that. It's always difficult to know what conditions you're going to face and just how hot it's going to get. But I think we're in a much better position than we were 12 months ago going into this sort of run of events. And you're always working on these sorts of things, but at the minute our main focus is the setup and getting them more comfortable with that side of things.
And one of the issues that was probably more noticeable in Catalonia last year was the tire wear, excessive tire wear in the front and the understeer. Is that something that's been dealt with or is still being worked on?
Yeah, okay. Dealt with is a little bit strong. I don't think these sorts of things are ever fixed, but we worked pretty hard with that towards the end of last year. And again, you have to compare us to the competitors. I think we had a lot of tire wear and a lot of overheating on the fronts, but ultimately the teams generally had that struggle as well. So some of it is down to the regulations and how the Rally 1 cars are set up compared with, when you look back to 2017 and the Fiesta, when you had an active center diff and you could do a lot more, more advanced technology to help with these sorts of things. Ultimately that's one aspect. But we spent quite a bit of time with Hoyt even, before Croatia and after Monday working on the the tarmac car, and we've homologated new differential ramps, which he ran in Croatia for the first time. So I think that's one aspect that helps maintain the balance and prevent us, being quite so hard on the front tires. And then there's also some different geometry options that we've got, and I think we're constantly developing and working on it. And as I say, I wouldn't say it's fixed, but I do think that again, it's a little bit hard to say at this moment in time. But Croatia, you don't generally get as much tire wear, and you don't see as much heat going into the tires as you would in the likes of Catalonia. But ultimately, I think we were much sort of better, and it wasn't so much of a complaint in Croatia, and the understeer wasn't something that was that I was so vocal about. So as I say, I don't think you never know what's going to happen when you go to different events, but I think we're in a better window in that regard.
And is there anything development wise you can tell us about that's coming down the tracks, or what to expect, or is that all confidential and top secret?
I don't think so. We're constantly developing and working closely with Ryger to bring new damper upgrades, and that's going to be what quite a bit of Sardinia test is going to be taken up with. But we're also looking at several different geometry options, so we're a little bit tied with what we can do in terms of the homologation. So you're always, it's a little bit of a trade-off. So for example, for geometry options, we've got stuff that's homologated, and then we've got options that would require a new homologation. So for example, going to the Sardinia test, you've only got 1 day to test, but do you want to test the whole day on something that's a development item that you can't actually have available for the rally because it needs to go through the homologation process? So you need to have a little bit of an idea whether you want to spend some part of the day on getting a setup for the rally, and some part of the day on development and trying to work out whether you want to go down the route of homologating new parts and getting them more comfortable further down the line, because the homologation process doesn't happen overnight. You need to fill in your papers and send them to the FIA, and there's a time frame with that. So it's a balancing act, and if we can try and make them comfortable without homologating lots of new parts, then that's a much easier and more time and cost efficient way of doing it. But we need to see how we get on with that, but we are certainly pushing hard to bring in different geometry options. We're working on the dampers, as I said. We're doing aero studies, and there's been a new rear wing that we've tried for development as well. So further down the line, that's something that we could homologate. And obviously, as I said, he's got his differential ramps as well that he tested and liked before Croatia. So we were running them in Portugal, and Portugal for the first gravel event he's ran with him, and he ran with him in Croatia. And I think one of his complaints in Mexico came from the diffs. So we've maybe sort of improved that comment, but now we're shifting our focus to other things. So it's constantly a cycle of development, and I'm sure if we do solve his wooden horse feeling, he'll be on to something else for us to work on before long. So it's all part of the game, and that's what makes the engineering side of it interesting as well. You are constantly working on different parts of the car and trying to find solutions to whatever problems you're faced with, whether it's from the conditions or from the temperatures or whatever, or whether it is driver setup and trying to fine tune. So
and from the outside looking at Rally 1, it's extremely competitive, that all three teams are trading times, trading stage wins. They're all very close. There's no huge gaps between them. But yet, and again, maybe it just seems like the drivers that, 2 years into, or a year and a half into the Rally 1 cars, they still seem to be struggling to come to terms with driving the cars. Is that just that's how it looks, or that is the case? And what is the reason? Is it the spec, or?
Yeah, I would say that probably is the case. I think obviously I've been vocal about his complaints with the Puma, and also for several years with a Hyundai. He wasn't comfortable with that car last year either. So that's something that we also need to to manage the expectation, because he's very vocal about our car, but sometimes he's comparing it to the 2017 Fiesta, or he's comparing it to the Toyota that he won the championship with, and the regulations are very different now. So ultimately we're competing against the other Rally 1 cars, not against the old spec of cars. So I think you hear bits and pieces from the other teams as well. Certainly the Hyundai guys aren't as without any inside knowledge, but from their stage end comments, they're also not happy with how the car behaves, and it's also got quite a narrow window of being able to really go out and perform. And at times, even this season, Cali has also commented of not being comfortable. Even Seb in Croatia as well. And they're not as vocal, and it's maybe not as consistent complaints. But ultimately, I think all the drivers aren't maybe as happy as they were in the past. And I think there's several elements to that. I think one part of it is the regulations and having the extra power from the hybrid, and sometimes you have it, sometimes you don't. So it's difficult to make it really consistent. And on top of that, you've gone away from having the active center diff and the hydraulic paddle shift and more aero. So there was quite a lot of things we could adjust just using the active center diff as well. So you could make the car turn a lot easier while still having more locked mechanical diffs front and rear. Trying to do that just with your mechanical diffs, and also have the amount of locking that you want to keep the traction it's an engineering challenge. And ultimately that's what we need to try and work towards and keep improving in that area. But I think we're a little bit tied with the regulations, but also the other aspect is there is a much maybe tighter fight at this point as well. So they are also pushing the cars right to the limit, whereas maybe in previous years there's slightly bigger gaps, and maybe somebody leading the championship wasn't really going at 95 to 100% on every single stage, whereas this year to go and win events, you really need to be doing that. So I think as it was well recorded or well talked about, it was massively tight. 4 drivers, I think, within 10 points or whatever going into Portugal. So you need to be able to be right on the limit and on every stage. And going off that point as well, we obviously know Oit's not happy with the car, but we're only 17 points off the championship lead, and looking back over the last 3 or 4 years, it's closer than he's been. Even in 2019 when he won the title, after 5 events, he was 28 points behind Terry. So it doesn't mean that that's how it's going to pan out, and we know we've got a lot of work to do, but we've still banked some decent points with Oit not being completely comfortable with the car. So if we can work hard and make improvements, then hopefully we can really put a good fight to Toyota and Hyundai.
No, absolutely. Like, considering we're only 5 rounds in, it's gearing up to be a very good championship, and still quite open, championship as well as to where it could go. And Jamie, just purely with your engineer's hat on and that engineer's challenge, and I know we're waiting on the regs to come out for what the next, WRC Rally 1 cars are going to look like, or what the spec is. But from an engineering challenge point of view, what would you like to see yourself? Do you want it to be hydrogen? Do you want it to be EV completely? Or, what are your own thoughts?
Yeah, for me personally, I think hydrogen is probably more of an interesting avenue to go down than full EV. I think full EV is maybe a short-term solution, but longer term that's not going to be the fix, let's say. And I also think rallying on stage side it's a proper full atmosphere, and being able to hear the cars coming through the trees and arriving from 4 or 5 kilometers away is a real part of the sort of nature of rallying as well. And it's a little bit different to watching a car on a track where you can see the car coming lap after lap after lap, and you can see the different fights. But applying that to rallying is maybe not the best solution. But there's people that are working very hard to find a direction to go down, and ultimately I think we want to keep as many manufacturers in the sport as possible, and try and have many more join. So some of that direction is also going to be led by what they want and how you're going to entice them to enter the WRC, and whether that is with what technology we choose to go down, or whether that's going to be how we promote and how we market the sport better and appeal to a wider audience. So I think from purely an engineering aspect, I would love to see active center diffs back. I would love to see active front and rear diffs, but that's, those are the sort of things that engineers could get stuck into and we could change. It was very interesting whenever, a driver complained of a very specific corner. You could see what the center diff was doing. You could make a tweak from run to run on a test and see if you're able to get it into a better window. Whereas now it's a little bit more, let's say we don't have as many tools to play with, and it's a little bit more mechanical based, and it's the software side of it is also something that interests me. So that's purely a selfish aspect. I mean, they're massively expensive, and that's why we went away from it. So ultimately it's not my decision how things are going to go, but where we are now is it's going to give us a good championship fight, and at least all three cars are clearly very close in trading stage times and on every single stage. So we just need to find a balance and act of how we're going to move forward, and also try and keep costs under control.
And Jamie, just to finish up, it's a Monday night after WRC weekend. You've just arrived home. What's the rest of your week look like?
Well, quite busy trying to get everything crammed in. So, as I said, Sardinia is just around the corner now. So, we've got 2 weeks to Sardinia, less than 2 weeks to Sardinia test. So I'm traveling next Thursday. I know it's testing on the Friday. I was in the office today for a few hours trying to, sort of distribute the information to the relevant teams and departments and make sure we're all on the same page to really start ramping things up and having everything available in good time for the test. So we had a meeting with Lloyd and the engineering department today, and the guys at Ryger, and then tomorrow we'll do the full sort of engineering debrief, and then we'll also do a technical debrief. So run through any issues that we had in Portugal, what we're going to do about them, and how we're going to fix them for Sardinia. So flat out really. Don't have so much time to rest. So that's how it is, especially with these events coming thick and fast. You need to be flat out.
Fascinating there to hear from Jamie, and it's lovely to get that kind of insider view of what's going on there in M Sport. This weekend, as we said earlier, ERC round 3. Jon Armstrong's back out in the Tangerine. I think it's been nicknamed now the latest evolution of the Rally 3 Fiesta. Look, we know the talent Jon Armstrong has behind the wheel. It's great to see him being used in this development process as well.
It is, yeah. I think we're all, and nobody more than him would probably rather he had a 2 next to his car in the entry than a 3. But I think this is a lot better than not doing anything. And it's great that he's, as you say, been entrusted to drive this new car, which I guess the difficult thing is we don't really know where it stacks up. We're about to this weekend, because I believe I'm right in saying this is the first time we've ever had Rally 3 battle between manufacturers on a rally, so that's got me very interested. But John's obviously, he's got form in Poland, hasn't he? He's won here before in this very car, well, the older Rally 3 Fiesta. He's obviously been there in the WRC as well, so he knows what he's doing. Shall we say? We're not big him up too much, put any pressure on him. But I think it'll be great to see, and as you say, it's great for him to still be connected to M Sport Poland, who didn't need to keep him on after those years in doing the WRC, but they've seen something in him and they've valued that contribution. So it's great for him. And I'm going to do a shout out to my fellow Scotsman, Cameron Fair, as well. I'm quite pleased for him for getting an opportunity, because I know he's been working hard to get something internationally. So it's great that him and Jon, I believe 2 fellow Vauxhall Nova enthusiasts, are together in a Fiesta. So it should be a good rally for them.
And we've all come through the Vauxhall Nova stage. Connor, you spoke to Jon. That we know, undoubtedly he's a huge talent, but he's such level-headed. He knows where he's at. He knows what he needs to do, and he keeps striving to better himself and keep progressing. And he has so many obstacles put in his way over the years.
He has. And firstly, I've got images of a Rally 3 Nova in my head now. But
Somebody make that. Somebody make it. If anybody's out there can homologate a Rally 3 Nova, that would be special. You've got our blessing.
My heart goes out to Jon. I personally biased or whatever. I think Jon is a phenomenal driver. Watched him in the Down, win the Down Rally. Watched him in Galway, you know, as well as a couple of other events, and he's just incredible. He genuinely is, and I've seen him in Catalonia. You just want things to click for him, you know, and it's a struggle, and it's a struggle for every crew out there trying to raise the sponsorship and get the drives and stuff. But, you know, as you say, at least he's out there. He is driving. He's in a competitive car. It's a fantastic opportunity now. They can benchmark against the Clio to see, you know, how does it compare. And then if I'm right too, the Opel are out as well with their Rally 3, so there's a good chance there for proper benchmark really to see where the competition's at. But yeah, Jon, I just think it's a fantastic talent, and you know, all fingers crossed that, you know, Poland's another good result for him.
For sure, for sure. And look, you alluded to there, you know, the new Renault Rally 3, like, we don't know the level of the rally it was competing in, but it was setting phenomenal times in the round of the French Championship. I think there was a couple of fastest times outright ahead of Rally 2 R5 cars. That's going to make M Sport up their game, isn't it?
I think it will, but you're right. We don't know how it's going to do it. I think the interesting thing is how different those two cars are. I think mainly the engine is the biggest difference, because there isn't a sort of spec of size you have to have. So whereas the M Sport's a 3-cylinder, we've got a 4-pot in the Renault. So whether that's going to make a difference, I don't know. There was a theory going around that they reckon potentially on faster events like Poland, the Fiesta might be the car to have, but on tarmac it could be the Clio. But that's all just talk. We have no idea until we get them into a rally situation. But yeah, I think it's going to be really interesting to see how the two go. But the Rally 3 class in general, I'm really happy that we now have a battle going on, because I think we've all known how good and useful those cars are. You speak to anybody that's driven a Fiesta, and they'll tell you what a great step that is into four-wheel drive rallying. So it's great that the class is now getting a bit more support and hopefully can gain even more traction, because get a proper good driver in there, and the giant killing is amazing. We saw it from Jon last year in Azores. I think he was really up there with some stage time. So yeah, I think it'll be a great dimension to add to what should be another good ERC event.
That's for sure. That's for sure. And like, we should point out, like, you have sampled the Renault. Like, we'll not even talk about the snowbank.
I was hoping you weren't going to bring this up. I thought you would, but I was hoping you wouldn't.
Yeah.
Were you part of the development?
I was, yeah. I was a crash test dummy. That was my official role.
You performed admirably.
That's it.
But I think without further ado, I think we'll cut across to Jon and hear what him and Connor had to say.
Hey Connor, it's nice to be back on. Yeah, everything's going well with me. Yeah, since the last time I was on, done Canaries, which was a good event, and now heading to Rally Poland. So it's an event that I've really enjoyed in the past. So very much looking forward to that.
And what do you call it? You're doing development work for M Sport with the Rally 3 Fiesta, which I suppose is the main reason behind the two outings. How did you get on with the car in Canaries?
Yeah, the car was really good. I guess on paper, the upgrades, each one of them, they're quite small, but you know, all together it makes the car more competitive and also more reliable too, with the especially the front, the new front end on the car. It allows more air to flow to the radiator and keep the engine cool. And also the new brake ducting to the brakes keeps the brakes cool. So overall, it means the car in a twisty event like Canaries, and it's hot as well, that the car keeps cool so you can keep that performance for longer. And that was something that I've seen in the past, like in last year in Greece and a few other events. You know, if the temperatures are high, the car was getting really hot with the anti-lag on, so you actually had to knock the anti-lag setting down so that the car would lower its temperature. But in Canaries, we had no issues with that. and yeah, there's some other changes. We had the shorter gearbox ratio. That was really good in Canaries because of how twisty the stages are, and you have a lot of uphill sections as well. I think that gearbox will be useful in a lot of scenarios. I think overall the older the first gearbox that was homologated with the original Rally 3 Fiesta was probably a little bit too long. So now this one seems to be a better fit. And yeah, obviously we've got a few other bits and pieces like the new rear wing, which I think overall the balance of the chassis and the aero is better now too, based on what I felt in the testing. And then there's new dampers on gravel and tarmac. I actually used the new gravel dampers in Fafe and they were really good. And then we had the new dampers in Canaries, which it wouldn't have been the biggest test for them because it's so smooth, but for sure on the more bumpy rallies, like even in Ireland, it stops the car from bottoming out as much, and you got a bit more. The car basically just handles better in general because the dampers cope with those harsh hits a bit better now. So there's lots of different things, but overall it makes a good step forward, I would say.
And you mentioned there the Canaries and the new dampers, and it's very smooth. It's almost racetrack like tarmac you're on. Does that allow you maybe more to focus on other things rather than the dampers and the suspension, or are you equally still looking at those throughout the event?
You're still looking at them and how you might change the settings to you're always trying to find the optimal settings. So you're playing around with damper clicks and stuff like that. But to be honest, the car was handling really well. The setup that we started the test with, we didn't really change too much then, and went into the rally with that setup. On the event, I guess we didn't really change too many things. You're just playing with damper clicks here and there, and we've most of the changes are done on the pre-event test or in the development test, and I think the engineers they get a good idea of what works with the car and what sort of direction they want to go with. It's a good benefit. In the ERC, you usually have one of the engineers from the development test, so they know the car inside out, so you're in the best hands to get the best of the car. And if you want to change something, then you've got really good knowledge and advice to improve the car on the rally as well.
And for those type of events, are you kind of let off the leash as such? Can you go at 10/10, or do you have to keep it a bit reserved because it is still about tweaking the car and getting the best out of the car?
Well, the brief is always there's always an aim to try and set some good times against the Rally 2 cars, and obviously we know roughly where we want to be in terms of second per kilometer off the fastest Rally 2 and stuff like that. So for sure they're always keeping an eye on the stage times and the performance, and the ultimate goal of those events was to just do the best times that you can and get the best overall result. Obviously it's hard whenever you don't have any other Rally 3 competitors to sort of bench yourself against, so it's hard to know actually what your pace is like. You just have to go as fast as you can, and I think in Fafe and in Canaries we had some good stage times, so overall we're happy, and the team seem happy, and Maciek Wuda from M Sport Poland, he seems happy with what we've done. So overall it's been 2 good events, and now heading into Rally Poland we've got a few more competitors to bench ourselves against in in the Rally 3 class, and we've got one driver in the new Clio Rally 3, so that'll be really interesting to see how we'll be against them in terms of the two cars against each other, and what my pace is like also. So yeah, it should be an interesting event, and I'm looking forward to that one, just to have a bit of competition again.
Yeah, and where's the focus, on Poland and the Fiesta? What areas will you be looking at? Is it really just how it handles in the loose, or will you be looking at more than that?
Well, yeah, I think we'll be looking to get a good setup on the pre-event test, that's for sure. But we done some development tests in Poland on gravel. Well, I done one the end of last year, so the engineers and the team, they'll know roughly what they want to do with the setup and where the limit of the car is on that surface. So there probably won't be too much development on the rally. It's just more a case of trying to get a good result and just go as fast as we can, I think. A lot of the development work is done on the development tests, and the engineers and the designers of the car have a good idea of the stuff that they want to improve, and then on the development test you might try a couple of different options for that particular area of the car, whether that's a gearbox or a damper, and then you end up finding the best one. So in terms of any further development, I'm not sure what the plan is, but for sure you're just trying to find the best setup on the pre-event test, so then that you can go into the event with the fastest car that you can have, and then it's up to me, the driver, then to try and do a good job on the stages. So that'll be the plan, just to get a comfortable car and then go into the rally and try to get a good result.
And then each of the evenings, is there, do you sit down with the engineers? Is there a full debrief of, how the day's gone and the different changes and tweaks you've tried?
Yeah, I mean, throughout the event, you're always speaking with the engineer and feeding back on the car, and like you said, at the end of each day, you'll have a bit of a debrief to see how the day went, and if you've still got some things that you want to improve, what the plan will be tomorrow, things like that, for sure. And then after the event in Canaries, for sure the engineer will have a list of different questions to focus on in terms of giving feedback and the overall impressions of those different areas. So it's definitely enjoyable. It's the sort of thing that you always dream of being involved in, and now to be given the chance to help with the development of a car and be able to drive the car as well, it's very enjoyable and a big privilege as well. So I'm just enjoying it and trying to give them what they need. So it's really, really cool.
And any chance you can convince them to let you try one at a tarmac at home?
Maybe. It's hard to know. Obviously, William Creighton's got the car, and he's been doing some events in Ireland, so I think already they've got probably a good benchmark with William, and obviously that doesn't cost them anything either. It's Williams' money. So to be honest, there's been some discussions before the year started, but nothing's really developed into doing a rally. So I guess we'll just have to see. It would be really, really cool to do an event and see what sort of result we could get. But at the moment, I'm not too sure what the plans will be going forward. But it's more a rally per rally basis at the minute. So we'll see. Who knows? Maybe at the end of the year we'll do something.
And John, putting your other hat on, the work you're doing in the testing, and for anybody that doesn't know, you're also working game development for Codemasters. Um, are you able to bring what you're feeling and working on with the Fiesta, the Rally 3 into the gaming development? With particularly I suppose the physics of the game and the how it feels.
Yeah, I guess you're always developing your sort of analytical feedback through both sides. So I would say, over the last 4 or 5 years, I've been improving by working in the games industry and giving feedback virtually, and then also now being back rallying and working on setups for each rally and working with engineers. For sure, it's improving me doing both, and being able to just build my knowledge of what works and what doesn't work, and what's the best way to get to sort of portray your feedback to different individuals. For sure, it's been really useful, and I think the more driving I do, and the more I start to understand the way the car reacts and stuff like that, and areas that you can improve the car. For sure, it helps with the feedback that I give in my day job as well. It's definitely cool to be able to do both things. I definitely enjoy life at the moment. But for sure, the ultimate goal is to still be rallying as much as possible in real life. So we'll keep pushing on that side, and opportunities like being able to go and do this in the European Championship in front of everyone. The last two events I've been able to be the first driver into the power stage. It was really cool as well. So I just need to keep pushing, and hopefully we'll be able to keep driving. Essentially, that's what every driver wants.
That's it, and it's an opportunity to keep your profile, out there as well, which is great. And John, you and I bumped into each other in the stage in Croatia. What's your take on the WRC at the moment, where it's at? How what you read on it? With obviously Cali won at the weekend in Portugal, so great to see him back after I think it's 7 months since he last won. But just what's your take on it between Rally 1s, Rally 2s, etc., or WRC 2s?
Yeah, it's been quite an interesting season. I think in WRC 1, it's been quite a level playing field, and everyone's sort of had a good rally and an average rally, and it sort of equaled out to be quite close. But for sure, Cali had a very strong event in Portugal. It seemed like he was back to his old ways of last year and found that rhythm again. And that first stage in Saturday morning where he took 12 seconds out of everyone, it looked a bit ominous for the rest of the year, to be honest. So it would be nice that it would stay as close as it was at the beginning of the year, and Cali doesn't run away with it, but I guess we'll just have to see. When you look at ERC and WRC2, when there's 30 cars per rally, and maybe 15 of those cars could challenge for the win, it's very exciting. And WRC2 at the weekend was really good to follow. Just there's big battles everywhere, and the pace is really, really high. I think it's still really good to watch as well. It's hard to know. But for sure, it's really good to watch. And it gives opportunities to privateer drivers as well to showcase themselves. Even like Josh at the weekend, he was putting in some really good times in WRC2, and it just puts you in the spotlight a bit more. So if you look back to the early 2000s, you were able to do that at the top tier. You were able to go and rent a rally car and be able to compete, but it's not as achievable nowadays. So but overall, I think still an exciting championship. The media coverage is really, really good at the minute, that we have all live to follow these events. I'm pretty much glued to it whenever I'm not doing a rally, even though I probably shouldn't be, but that's how I like to spend my weekends. If there's a rally on, I'll be watching the all live. So yeah, I think we just need to try and grow the sport a bit more somehow. But it's hard to have the answer to that. And I'm sure the guys who are planning everything are still struggling with the same answer. Trying to grow the sport's not easy, but if we keep pushing, I'm sure we'll get there. And with the possibility of the American event, that could be really big for sports. So yeah, let's see. That could be a good way to grow it.
Yeah, hopefully it does. Like you would hope Subaru, rekindle their interest based on that, considering that they are pumping a lot of money into continuing to compete in the States. So that's certainly one thing. And the Rally 2 battle, or the WRC 2 battle, was brilliant between Gus and Peta, and or sorry, not Peta, Oliver. But the fact that went down to the wire after the penalty and stuff, that like it really was, you were glued on Sunday morning watching the two of them, battling each other.
Yeah, it's super interesting to follow. And it's good to see, you have so many different drivers from all, different levels of experience battling it out in WRC2. Like you've got McErlean, who's, sort of the expert of that category coming back, and even Chris Meek, and then you have someone as young as Oliver, who's super, super quick at the front of the field. You just have, a wide variety of drivers, and it's really interesting to follow, to see how they match up against each other, and how they sort of attack each day or each section of a rally. And yeah, it's just very interesting to follow. So I think the sport at the minute is, the action's really exciting, for sure, and it's as fast as it's ever been as well. Drivers are becoming, more and more professional, and you're putting in so much effort on the recce and before the event, studying the stages and going over the recce videos. So yeah, it's just the level keeps going up and up, and it's just crazy the speeds that the guys are going at now, and how consistent you have to be as well to be able to win a rally. It's become more and more like a sprint. So yeah, it's good to follow.
It is. And strategy wise as well, particularly when you look at the WRC, like the Sunday's averaging out around 50-60k max. You don't have a lot left to give, so it really is that sprint on Friday and consolidating what you have then on the Saturday.
Yeah, I think at the start of a rally, that's where you're going to make the most time, is being quick out of the blocks whenever everyone's trying to find their feet a little bit with setup and tires and just their pace notes and everything. There's a period at the start of a rally where some people get into it quicker than others, and if you can get a bit of a gap at the start, then it's easier to maintain that on Saturday and Sunday whenever everyone's at sort of the same pace then. So there's lots of different ways to plan your rally strategy, but for sure you have to be quick out of the blocks. And obviously tire management is a big thing nowadays as well. You don't really have enough tires, or maybe enough of the right compound of tire to do the whole event, so you have to plan your rally around that, and sort of make sure you still have enough tires come Sunday to bolt onto the car, so you still have a bit of pace if you need it. It's hard to plan a rally, but for sure nowadays it's just about going as fast as you can. Maybe not for as long as you can, but just go as fast as you can and keep that pace as consistently as you can as well. Because you can see some drivers are really fast at the beginning of the rally, and then they sort of drop off a little bit. It's being able to keep that going throughout the whole event. That's what makes you a really good driver, or the best in the world, as we've seen with Ogier and Loeb, and they were able to turn it up a little bit more then as well. So it's not easy, that's for sure. But if it was easy, everyone would be winning rallies, and it's just trying to find that extra bit whenever it's needed.
Yeah, it's Loeb and Ogier always seem to have just something in reserve when they came under pressure.
Yeah, it's you have to be envious of that, for sure. It's not easy to turn it on like that, and it's not a nice feeling either. I've been on both sides of that battle where I guess you were able to turn it up that bit more, but then I've also been in situations where you just know that I don't know if I can match that, and you just have to accept defeat some days. But it's all about just trying to get as much points as you can too on the board. Pick your battles, and I think maybe more so Ogier was good at doing that. Some rallies he would just pick up the points, and then in other rallies he was the fastest and he could win the rally comfortably. So you have to be smart as well.
Yeah, and maybe that's what we're seeing in his choice of rallies as a part-time driver.
Yeah, I think he said that he doesn't want to come back and do a full year. It's quite interesting that he was still leading the championship after only doing 2 out of 3 rallies at the start of this year. Definitely still an amazing driver, and one of the best that we've ever seen. With him and Loeb are the greatest. So for sure, he's just got so much experience. He can go to any of the events and really, probably have some of the pace notes still from previous years, and he'll know what it takes to be right on the pace. And he's got a good run order for the gravel events too. So it's really interesting. But even Cali this year, he hasn't really had the best starts to the year in terms of maybe having the confidence and in himself. He maybe hasn't been not motivated wouldn't be the right word, but maybe just hadn't been able to put everything together. But I was looking today, actually, he has been outside the top 4 in every rally this year. So he's been picking up the points, and then he's got his win in Portugal. Now he's got a 15 or 20 point lead now. So it's just all about trying to punch in those results and get the points, and then at the end of the year, that's whenever it counts.
Best of luck to Jon there at the weekend, himself and Cameron. Hopefully they have a great run there in Poland. Also last weekend was the Manx National Rally and the latest round of the Irish Forestry Championship. What can we say? Marty Toner and the BM had a fantastic run on those Manx roads. The stages over there are epic, there's no doubt about it, and the BMW was really singing. And then also Tommy Moffett, the latest of the Moffett clan, won the junior section of that event as well too. So we'll catch up with the 2 guys, but first of all we'll hear from Marty. Marty, you had a fantastic run in Isle of Man there at the weekend. Fantastic event.
Brilliant event, yeah. No, I recommend anyone to go to it's best stages you get on early.
Yeah, I think 17 stages over 2 days. There's very few places around here you'll get that. You have to go to the Isle of Man really to get that, and it's not just Mickey Mouse stages. They're good, proper long stages, some of them as well.
Oh, they are. Yeah. Those stages are maybe 14 mile long. They were. I tell you, the last loop on Saturday evening was as much mileage as the Sperrins is this weekend. In the final loop play.
Yes.
So it's a brilliant rally. It's a tough rally. There's a lot of bikes didn't finish, but luckily enough we got through it. And
yeah, because there's big kilometers in it, and good stage miles and limited, road miles, because it's a small enough island, so you kind of roll off one stage into the next, and then into service. It's got everything a competitor wants there, really.
It is, and even for Raki point of view, we Raki the whole thing in one day. Some of the stages was 3 stages. The start of them was different, or the end was different, or come in the middle of it, or if you had your Raki done right, you could done 3 stages in the one stage, in your Raki and stuff, and. Yeah. It was good now. It worked out well.
And like, you know, yes, you have the extra expense of the boat and, you know, staying away and one thing and another. But like, would you recommend, you know, other competitors to go for and give it a go next year?
Oh, definitely. It would definitely have to be in the bucket list now if you were never there before.
Hmm.
And it's not that expensive. The boat was like maybe £500.
Right.
You know, it wasn't mad. Like, and accommodation was like 300 or 350. You know,
Yes.
it was just as cheap as going to a southern event. Really, you know, a 2 day southern event.
Aye, if you were going to
Or
Cork or
staying
something like
away.
that, aye, you a lot more, you know, with diesel and all driving up and down the country and one thing and another anyway, you know.
Yeah,
So,
the hotel's more expensive and stuff. You know, and you know,
uh
it wasn't that expensive to go to Hull. Yeah.
yes, and like, you know, the range of cars you're up against there, you know, you have you know, all the best of them, you know, British national guys and all, and like the BM was in amongst them right from the get go. Like you're in the top 10 pretty much from the start.
Yeah, funny. Myself and Damon after the first two stages running 3 seconds between us. But then funny he had with a mechanical trouble, put him back a wee bit. But it was them boys all push hard like. You know,
Hmm.
they're all driving, you know, and driving well, but just got out of the blocks lovely and got away well and a couple of good times the first couple of stages and just set me up for the weekend then.
Yeah, I could, like, you know, like yourself and Damien, you know, you're brothers, yes, but like, is there that still that competitive edge? You know, like he's there to beat the same as any other man.
Oh, maybe far more too.
And like, you know, you both work at each other's cars, and also you know the ins and outs of them, and like you're never going to see him stuck if he's got an issue. Like, and that's the great thing about the rallying community. Everybody pulls together. Everybody, you know, gets stuck in. Like you've pulled men out in the past before. Like, you know, I've seen you scrabbling in below other men's cars to keep them going. That's the great thing about rallying, isn't it?
Oh, that's what it's all about. Hey, so you have to like it's look at the sport at the end of the day. Every man likes to see the finish line, likes to
Mhm.
get to the finish, and if you help them at all, it was well good. Like
Yeah, and
I
like,
think anyway.
yeah, and like, you know, the BMW seems to be coming good for you now. You know, it was probably a wee bit troublesome, maybe a wee bit at the start, but it's getting there now, and it seems to be on the pace of like of the escorts and all. It must give you a lot of satisfaction to you know to have the car sorted now to your liking.
Yeah, funny. Worked harder now there a couple of years. We're working very hard at it, but now she seems to be as good as she's going to be now. You know, funny. I changed a few things from the Circuit of Ireland there.
Hmm.
Changed a few things and made a big improvement her. You know,
Yeah,
but done not put out your roll bars in the back of her and done different wee things. You know, and it all seems to work and it all seems to come together. Like.
yeah. Because every day is a learning day, and like, if you try something that works, it's great, and sometimes you'll try something that mightn't be as good then.
Yeah, no, that's it. Yeah, we done stuff to learn and went backwards and had to go back and start again and go to the drawing board again. But
Hmm.
no, funny at the minute now she seems to be not far away now. We can just keep her reliable and keep her on
Hmm.
the road.
Yeah, because like, you know, like 2 days in the Manx, like, you know, 17 stages, and you know, you seem to be trouble free enough.
Oh, she never put a spanner on her. She never put a wheel wrong all weekend. And
Hmm.
it was just one of them rallies. Everything went from the word go. You know, just went well. And but I never put a wheel in the grass all weekend. Or she never she never coughed. Like no bother out of
Hmm.
her at all. Like.
Yeah, and like, you know, you should give a shout out, I suppose, to Damien the brother as well. He had a good old run there at the weekend, and yes, he had a brother, but like he fought back well, and he was back up into the top 10 by the finish.
It was I think he was maybe eighth overall or something at the end of it.
Uh-huh.
Or eighth or ninth.
Yeah,
Yeah, it's funny. He fought back well. He had a tough weekend there. We
yeah.
had
Mm-hmm.
any arm on would have pulled out now, but he went on ahead and finished it anyway.
Yes, and also then young Sam Adams from up Ballymoney direction, he come away I think seventh or eighth as well, and the Pinto, great result for him as well.
Yeah, great result. I've been to some serious times too. You know,
Hmm.
the stage he was only maybe 10 or 12 behind me, you know, on stage. And like, no, don't get me wrong, Saturday night I was a big enough lead for Eddie to do more, but I was still driving on hard. You know, still you
Hmm.
might be just taking big chances, but you're driving on hard like he was doing sometimes.
Yeah,
Fair bet him.
for sure, for sure. And like now that's the Manx over. Where to next? What's in the pipeline?
Going to Port maybe.
Uh-huh.
Um, done Port twice before, and then it hasn't run now from 19 from COVID come. But
Hmm.
it's great wee rally.
Yeah.
Always enjoyed that wee rally. You know, always funny, always gone real well down.
Yes.
So I'm going to it now in 3 weeks here, hopefully.
Yeah, good to get the result now. It was challenging conditions. Yeah, it was unfortunate now for both Jack Kennedy and Jack Harris. They both had slight off-road excursions. I'm sure, look, it happens. I've been there. it's kind of the luck of the draw now. But yeah, it was good to get the result. Now it was tough. It was the toughest 50 kilometers I've ever seen.
Yeah, it seemed to be like a real challenge. Even like the top crews and everybody, it just seemed like a real good challenge. Like good stages and good to get that kind of kilometers in below your belt as well.
Yeah, definitely. Yeah, stage 1 and 2 were quite clean and fast. Um, stage 2 was very enjoyable. Stage 3 was very good. But probably the last 2 or 3 kilometers was very tight, narrow, and mucky. It was really challenging, and funny. Probably about a kilometer from the finish of the stage, a car ahead of, or a car sooner in the field had hit something and pulled the wheel off, and I when I came round and seen the car, I panicked and I braked. And the car kind of stepped out a bit. I caught it, and it turned out I got talking to Jack later on, and that's where he went off. He just didn't get away with it.
Yeah.
But it was challenging now, but it was very good. It was an enjoyable event. It was good to get the win there, and
Yeah, because that's we keep saying every week in this podcast about that's the great opportunities that young drivers are getting now, and like for the likes of yourself, this is your third year now completing in the junior 1000. Like to have the experience that you've already gained, and you're only what 17 now.
yeah. So I done the championship last year. Didn't go great now, but yeah, yeah, I probably would have been at it earlier, only for COVID kind of put a bit of an abrupt stop to stuff that was in the works. But
Uh-huh.
these things happen. Yeah. Now I'm doing RSA days and stuff for, I don't know, it's a long time anyway.
Yes, at least 3-4 years, and like that is like that that is fantastic, because like the time you are ready for the stages properly, like in a whatever way you're going to go, the amount of experience that you'll be carrying into that. Like a few years ago, like guys were starting out, even probably like I suppose Sam and Josh they went to the RSA events too when they were younger. But a lot of guys, like the first time they got behind a wheeler rally car, they were probably only 18, 19. Like you've already got probably at least 1,000 kilometers on below your belt at this stage.
Yeah, probably something like that. Yeah, the RSA run a great gig too. It gets you to a good point that if you can control a car by the time you don't get it anything even.
Mhm.
So now I think they have the regulations there now for the juniors down to 13 now, which is it's quite young. It's quite young, but I suppose if you're at it early, you'll be you'll have a lot of experience coming out of it. Like,
Yeah, because like even if you never, like once you get to 18 and you never, drive a rally car ever again, like even to be on the roads, what you'll have learned, like, you'll be able to control the slide. You'll be able to, you don't panic whenever something unexpected happens. It becomes part of you. It's an instant reaction. You talked about the car stepping out. You were able to gather that up without any real dramas.
yeah, just experience where that comes from. Like,
That's
there's
it.
nothing you can't. There's no way of getting that experience. Like, you need to take time for that sort of experience. Like,
It's every time you get behind the wheel, you're learning something new.
yeah,
The likes of previous champions there like Ken McBride and Jack Brennan, what you see that what they're going on to do, and then even on the world stage, Alfyn Evans, Will Crichton, Jon Armstrong, all come through the junior 1000s. Like it's a great stepping stone for young guys like yourself. It shows you that the sky's the limit with it.
Yeah, even Josh McErlean there,
Yeah.
he done the Scottish Championship, and it's obviously they have their stepping stones while in order there, and it's obviously working for them. So
And
yeah,
like the championship, like, like I wasn't aware until earlier today. There's actually two championships involved. There's the Junior 1000, which is the forestry. You're leading that now, and there's also the Motorsport Ireland Juniors as well too. So you're leading that, and that's a dual surface one. There's a couple of tarmac rounds then later in the year with it. Do you see yourself following up and completing the championships, the two championships?
yeah, definitely go for it. If yeah, definitely go for it. That was that the plan. So
Hmm. And like it's the getting the opportunity to do the two surfaces as well too. You're equally comfortable now at this stage, I would say, on both. Like the you talked about the Rally Sport Association days that they're predominantly tarmac and concrete and that, and then your Junior 1000's gravel. Is there a preferred surface, or you're happy either way now?
I enjoy gravel. It's a lot of fun. I like the feeling of the carbon loose under you. There's always there's always a level of unpredictability with tarmac.
Hmm.
Um, there's a lot to learn on that front. Like there's no learning it unless you get on the roads, like and
Hmm.
doing the rallies. So it's just something again. It's take time.
And like we know the success your two brothers had, and we always heard of it. The great rivalry between Sam and Josh. But we always heard about this younger brother coming. That they thought these two boys was mad. Wait till you see Tommy. And like they're big shoes to fill. Like, do you feel is there a pressure on you now to perform, or will you only just ever play your own furrow?
There there's pressure, but it's all in my head. Or
Mhm.
so I'm told. Um, there's pressure surely, but I've kind of just had to learn to do my own thing and not worry about anyone else or what anyone else thinks. So that was probably the biggest challenge getting into even stage rallying. Like
Mhm.
was you know what everyone expects of me, but it's up to the person and what they're capable of. And
Mhm.
I'd love to get to the point that the boys is at, but so that'll only come with experience
Yeah.
and hard work.
Because like, if you think about it, they're at it now, what, 10, 12 years? It's like everything else. You have to serve your apprenticeship. You have to put in, the hard yards to get the success at the end of it all.
Yeah, I think I was 2 or 3 years old when Sam would have done his first rally.
That probably makes him feel old, I would say, when you start talking like that.
Yeah.
And do they offer you advice?
Oh yeah. Constantly. Yeah, it's great. It's great. It's great to have because they'll keep me right, whether it's, advice and setup or tires or how I'm driving or whatever.
Hmm.
They have a vast knowledge, which is it's always gonna help as long as I listen.
And like, yes, we've seen just there's days there, you all maybe have a buggy or something and you're sharing. Is that competitive age? They have so many more years experience. Do you still be watching their times? Do you still try to nip at their heels?
Oh yeah, look, it's in me. I'm competitive, whether it's go karting or whatever. Like it's always there never anything goes on without competition. Never.
But you can all have a laugh and joke about it at the end, most of the time, anyways.
Yeah, well, I yeah, I get plenty of stick about whatever they can throw at me. But
you're developing the big shoulders to carry it now at this stage, I would say.
yeah.
Well, Tommy, thank you very much for taking the time to join us. It's been a pleasure, and no doubt we'll be keeping an eye on you as the season progresses.
Yeah, no problem at all. Thanks for having me.
Good man. Great to hear from the two lads there. So this weekend coming up, McErlean Motor Club Tour of the Sperrins, latest round of the Northern Ireland Championship. 100 cars there on the entry list. It's going to be another epic fight there. Johnny Greer, Desi Henry, and Frank Kelly, David Bogie. Chat to David Bogie, something very special coming there, a new Mark II on the hit list, so watch this space here very closely in that one. I got a chance to catch up with Crawford Henderson, one of the guys behind putting the event together, and he gives us the rundown on what's coming up on Saturday.
We think and we hope we have a nice event on. It's a nice clubman style event. It's the first closed road event of the year contained in the Northern Ireland Championship, and we started out with 120 entries, so we're oversubscribed. So I think people are looking forward to it.
Yeah, and we've always been preaching all along, and McErlean Motor Club is one of those clubs that seem to know what the competitors want. They put the competitor front and centre. Whenever they're organising an event, it's run by competitors. That's what I'm trying to get at. It's run by competitors for competitors. They try and make it as competitor friendly as possible.
Well, there's so many competitors in our club, and if you go right back down through the years from literally at the start with Joe Pat O'Kane and right through to Charlie Donnelly's and Eugene Donnelly's and the Kieran Shaws and the Camillus Bradleys, and there's just been so many of them. And thankfully, a lot of those people are helping us out next weekend and helping us out this last 6 months to get this all pieced together. So it's good to see they've all still got an interest and they have the club at heart.
Yeah, and the great thing about rallying is people pay back, and that's exactly what they're doing. They've had their fun. They've seen the fantastic side of what rallying can bring, and they're now prepared to give it back to the next generation.
Well, it's a good thing, and I'm starting to do the same now. I mean, I've been competing since the late 1970s, 40-something years, and I feel I want to get involved in the organisational side of it. But there's just so much work involved, so much paperwork involved. It is incredible. It's almost a full-time job. I mean, you're spending half a day every day trying to get issues resolved and get things organised and make sure things fall into place. And thankfully, we have a good team of guys doing different jobs.
Yeah,
it's important.
Yeah, and though on the day, people won't even see them people doing them jobs, but they'll just be quietly going about their work, firefighting and doing what needs to be done on the day, just to make sure that the competitors have, and the marshals and everybody has a successful day.
Well, this is why it's so important to have a good team, because they do hopefully not too much firefighting on the day. Hopefully things are well enough organised. We have 3 fantastic stages. The setup will be 3 stages done twice. We want to keep it relatively simple and relatively easy for marshals, that they're not getting up at stupid o'clock in the morning to go and marshal at a stage somewhere, and and they're there all day. So that's why we repeated them twice rather than 3 times. It keeps the marshals happier and keeps the residents happier, and we've got 40-something miles out of it, so we're happy enough with that.
Yeah, excellent. And the 3 stages, Killian Duffy talked about them there when he does his wee promo there, and some of the 3 best challenging stages he's seen in Ireland this year. That has to give you guys great heart that like a guy of Killian's caliber is promoting the event to and trying to encourage competitors to come as well.
Well, if I can go through the stages one by one, the first one's not far from McErlean Town, and McErlean Town is where the service area is, right on the edge of town in an industrial estate, and we thank the people there at Ronan Valley Industrial Estate for their letting us use it. And I have to thank Charlie Donnelly again. He has organised all of that, and he's been the go-between.
Mm-hmm.
And so we move out of McErlean and we head over by a village called Desert Martin. And that's stage 1. And the first half of it, to my knowledge, has never been used before. And the second half has been used maybe the opposite direction or whatever, but it's never been used in this format. Then we move across to Draperstown, and we go to the second stage, which is called Glen Hull. And whilst bits of it have been used before, they've been used in different formats and different directions and different roads and linked. But it's a fantastic stage. It's bend after bend after bend after. There's no straights on it anywhere. There'll be no flat out in 5th gear. There'll be no rev limiters, no nothing. The next stage is a very famous name called Barnes Gap. But especially the first half of it, again, has been used the other direction once, I think, but never in this direction and never in this format. And again, very variable stage, absolutely brilliant, I think.
Yes.
And the beauty of all 3 stages, and the thing that we were looking for, is no chicanes.
Right.
We have no chicanes in the whole rally. And that, hopefully it'll not come back to bite us, but I think we've had it speed checked, and we're confident that it'll be good. And we're confident that the competitors will like it.
Yeah.
But as a result of that, we may have a bit of extra road miles.
Okay.
And I would plead with competitors to give us a bit of space there. There is extra road miles, but if you want good stages, maybe you have to travel.
This is it. And the compromise. There has to be a compromise somewhere. And the priority was good stages. And if they have to drive a wee bit, from the way you're describing the stages, there's a natural flow to them, 1 into 2 into 3. It's really coming off the third stage, coming back into service is where the run is it?
That's exactly right, and that can be an advantage if you've got a problem in stage 1 or stage 2. It gives you time to resolve that problem and get the people back into service and get whatever difficulties that's coming behind you, get those resolved and get back out again. And it is a clubman's event, and we're not trying to be any Donegal International or Killarney or anything like that. It's a clubman's event, and it's a Northern Ireland Championship event, and we feel that they will enjoy it, and I hope they do.
Yeah, and what a stellar lineup that is taking part as well. You have the cream of Northern Ireland rallying, and there is a few guys there. You mentioned Donegal. There's a few guys there keeping an eye out for June as well, really, isn't there? So,
well, this is the thing. I mean, I don't know how many of them are going to do Donegal, but it's a great test. I mean, it's 40-mile proper test for anybody that wants to go to Donegal. It's a super event. And for anybody that's doing the Northern Ireland Championship, I think they'll enjoy it as well.
Yeah, and over the last couple of years, some people kind of frowned upon for now the Northern Ireland Championship, split it into 2, the tarmac and the gravel. But it's starting to pay dividends, nearly every event they've been running close to 100 competitors. That has to be welcomed by everybody involved in rallying at the moment and in Northern Ireland.
Well, the road closing order things, they are up in the air a little with the motorbike guys. And hopefully next year maybe we'll have even one more. We don't know yet because we don't know what the motorbike guys will do. But hopefully we might have one more. And it would be nice to get a nice, few tracks, few closed roads, and get a nice balance. Maybe this year the balance has gone too much, but that's nobody's fault. We can't create road closing orders, so we have to go with whatever's available. And I must say that the rallies committee have done a great job, and they are doing a great job, and they're trying their best to put on a good show.
Yeah, that's for sure. And like, I suppose we should really touch on like that. Where do the spectators? There's obviously going to be a program out closer to the time, but like where is the rally based out? Or where do they go to see the start, and where is service?
Well, service is it's on there's a new ring road around McErlean, and it's literally a quarter of a mile off the ring road, and it's called Ronan Valley Business Park. And for anybody that doesn't know where it is, it's right beside the McErlean council offices. It's not 300 meters away from it. So it's on the Ballyronan Road. And the first stage, as I say, is near Desert Martin. And the next two are sort of west and north of Draperstown. And then you come back into Draperstown and back to service and repeat it.
Yeah, and they leave. Is it they leave in the service park? That's where they leave from in the morning.
Yeah, they leave. I think it's. I'll just confirm it here. 10 o'clock. The first car is due in the first stage to start at 10:30. So they leave at about 10 o'clock in the morning. So it gives people time to get things organised in the morning. It's not a 7 o'clock start or anything like that. It's nice time to get tyres organised and get marshals organised and timekeepers organised. And there's so many people has to be on the stage. We don't want to rush anything. We have time, so we're going to make good use of it.
I take time to make time, as such as the saying goes, So, and then it wraps up, and it's all back to the service park then for the champagne. Yeah,
well, we're going to keep it simple. That's something we were actually talking about. Prize giving now, prize given 3-4 hours after the finish, it seems to have just died away. There's nobody much interested in prize givings now. So we'll have some sort of prize giving at the finish. I'm not involved on that side of it, but there's a team involved in it. So there'll be prizes for every class winner in 1, 2, 3 in the class. But for the first 3 overall, there'll be champagne finish, yes. Yeah. So we want to get that all into place and make sure we get it promoted properly.
Absolutely. And this is again going back to the organising, the way this club works. You had a promotion day there a couple of weeks ago at one of your sponsors, and the crowd that even turned up for that shows that rallying's alive and well in the Marfell area.
Well, it was, yes, and I have to thank Go Petroleum. This is the second year they've supported us, and we were up at one of their filling stations in Cookstown, and I was surprised actually how many people turned up. I couldn't believe it, and I thank again all the drivers that brought cars, the McGuigan family and Gary Jennings, and they all turned up with their cars. Camillus Bradley turned up with a car. There's someone else I can't.
Desi Henry was there too, wasn't he?
Desi Henry, yes, indeed. And I thank all of them for taking their time out on a Sunday to come up and help with the promotion of the event. It was very, very good. Yeah. So,
I was supposed to start wrapping things up. It's going to be, get yourself to Marfell next Saturday. That's where the action is, and obey the marshals. Do as you're told by the officials or whatever, but enjoy the day.
Well, just to say that there is, there will be because the industrial estate is so big, there will be a car park for spectators available. So when you come in, you drive straight down in, and there's a car park away on the right-hand side. So you'll be able to park your car and travel up and walk up into the service area. And thankfully, it's a massive service area, so there's no trouble with space. But we would plead with people, please, just be sensible when you're spectating. It is so difficult to get people to think about where they're standing. Just use common sense and stand. And if someone says, "Look, you can't stand there," they're not telling you that to make life difficult. They just feel that's not a safe place. So just move on, move around the corner, move up higher. Try and keep up high above the road if you can, and it's obviously more safe to be there. But we want you to enjoy it. We want you to come and watch it. We want you to come and see it and enjoy the cars, enjoy the people, enjoy the fun. and see what the sport can give.
For sure. And then I suppose, as well as that, the sport always needs marshals, and I'm sure Matterfelt Motor Club's no different. If there's anybody who wants to get involved, is there somebody they can contact?
Yes, I haven't numbers here, but
No.
Patricia Laverty is always out looking for marshals, and Elizabeth Devine from Maiden City Motor Club is looking for timekeepers. And you may think, oh, there's only me and my friend, but those two people could make the final piece of the jigsaw happen. And we definitely do need. We a couple of stages, I think we're okay. The third stage might be a little bit light. So if there's anybody feels they want to come out there, you don't have to be an expert. You don't have to have a license. You don't have to have anything. All you have to be is willing and turn up on the day and have a bit of fun. And it is good fun marshalling.
It is.
Do it all the time, and it's fantastic. And you get to see what's happening and see how these things are organised and see what way the way the thing needs to be. It has to be done professionally and properly nowadays.
So thanks very much, Dave Crawford. I hope it all goes well for all the guys up there in Matterfelt Motor Club at the weekend. Look, one of the reasons we had you on, Jim Clark Rally, not this weekend, but next weekend, and you're taking part. How excited are you?
Just hearing you say that, it still doesn't make any sense. To be honest, I'm a mixture of excited and incredibly terrified and nervous and wondering why I've given myself this financial burden and all these mixture of emotions, as I'm sure everybody goes through. But I'm sure everybody, I say it all the time. So I'm really sorry. People know me and know this story already, but it's just the one event that means the most to me. It's the one that it literally went past my front door. The last stage I'll do in this weekend goes past the house I used to live in. It's just that for me, it's incredible that I'm now, because I never thought when I was sat there as a youngster watching all my heroes, and just never thought it would be me. Now, there won't be the same people paying attention to me. I'm right at the back and not doing anything impressive, but it isn't the point. It's just, it's one of those that there's probably more sensible things I could have done with the money, maybe got a mortgage, something like that, but you can't drive a mortgage. So it's pretty surreal. But we'll see. It's just one of those. I'm really fortunate to be in a situation where I just about can afford to do it. There'll be a little bit of budgeting and being careful for the next few months, but it's worth it. I think I'd made the mind up quite a while ago, but I think the last month or so really does teach you what we just don't know how long we've got. So you cannot not take these chances when you've got them. So that's what I've decided to do, and I shall make probably a fool of myself, but that's fine. I can live with that. It's worth it to get to do it.
Yeah, but Jim Clark is your Donegal, it is your Mount Everest, it is your dream. And we have to applaud that you're, rather than just thinking about it or talking about it, you're going to do it, and that's a huge hat tip to you, really. What do you think, Conor?
Oh, listen, absolutely. We all sit and dream about it, but we don't do anything about it. And, so look, absolutely fair play that you are, taking the bull by the horns and putting yourself out there. Fantastic to see it, genuinely.
Yeah, because rallying is one of those sports. You said you watched your heroes driving past. Rallying, it gives you that opportunity to drive the same roads as your heroes. It's not. It's like, I don't know. Going to watch Man United and going out and playing on your local football pitch. You don't get the chance to go and play at Old Trafford. You will get the chance to do those stages the same as car number one, or the same stages as Andrew Nesbitt and Eugene Donnelly used to fight over years ago. That has to be kids come true. That's kids in the sweet shop stuff.
Do you know what's interesting? It sounds stupid because of course I'm aware of it. It's where the whole origin is coming, but I've never really properly thought about it like that until you said that, and I actually feel a little bit emotional there, Kevin. Thanks for that. But the two of you're being too nice to me already. Those are very kind words. But it's as you say, it's unique rallying in that sense of it's the opposite way with football. To use that comparison, you could go and kick a ball wherever. You can't go and drive a car whenever you like. It's the challenge of this sport. But anybody can enter. You get the license. You have enough backing behind you. You can make yourself. You can compete. As I say, I'm not going to be anywhere near the level of any of these guys, but as you say, those Irish lads that you mentioned, they're the ones that stick out to me. They all came over and they just created the buzz of the early 2000s. I know other people talk about the early 90s or the late 90s as being the peak of that rally, but I was slightly too young to really remember that. The 2000s for me are where it's at. And yeah, to actually drive the same roads that they did, I considerably less speed, but still to do it, it's quite something.
It really is, you know. And like, not only are you doing the rally, you're doing it for a fantastic cause as well, too. So, like, you know, tell us what it is and how we can donate.
Yeah, so I'm raising money for Diabetes UK because I'm a type 1 diabetic, so it kind of makes sense. And I don't know, I don't honestly know if any diabetics look at this sort of challenge and think it isn't possible. But for me, if I can do anything to help anyone, I think that's the sort of message of what it's doing. It makes me feel a little bit less guilty for being self-indulgent, spending all this money on myself to do it. If I can do something good with it as well, I think it's nice. But yeah, it's never been a condition that's particularly challenged me in this side of things. There are complications, there are things you're aware of, but I think it's just nice to spread a message to prove that you can do this sort of stuff. Because I remember when I was, I don't know, maybe 11 or 12, and one of my mum's friends found a newspaper cutting that was, I can't remember exactly what the headline was, but it was to do with a young racing driver that basically hadn't let diabetes get in the way of it. And at that point, I never thought about it. I was never trying to be a racing or rally driver. I was too young to sort of compute what it meant. But I think the more I think about it now, I think this is a really nice message. And I guess that's what I'm trying to do, is just prove that it's not a stumbling block to anything. And I think hopefully most type 1s are aware that yes, it's a serious condition, but I see it and it sounds strange in a way, but I think I'm quite fortunate because if I could have a long-term health condition, this is a good one to have because it's actually quite manageable. As long as you're on top of things, and it shouldn't really cause you any issues. So we're fortunate that I don't honestly think my life is compromised at all, as is being proved with this. In terms of donation, I've got a Just Giving page open. Hopefully you guys can link it somewhere. Perfect. If you're kind enough. We've got an ambitious target I'm trying to raise trying to get £1,000 from it. Whether we can or not, I don't know. But we've already got over 500, which I'm really happy with, and tremendously grateful for everybody that has, particularly in these times, given up some of their beer money to help the cause. So yeah, there'll be stickers on the car as well. So we're trying to promote it as best we can. But it's funny, the guys and girls at Diabetes UK, they contacted me after they saw this, and they're like, "We've had lots of runners and lots of other sports. You're our first rally driver," and I thought, I'm not surprised.
And look, what do you call it? What car are you competing in, and who's co-driving? So
I've got a little Fiesta R2 from EDSL Sport, and the co-driver is also, I guess, a novice in in Alex Waterman, who runs the team and has done a bit of driving in the past, but he's just a good mate of mine, and that's what I want to do. Realistically, I know where I'm going to be at. I'm not going to be challenging for anything, so I don't need the best coach for in the co-driver's seat. Alex may be great. I don't know. He's like me. We could be the new Robin Perrin Halton for everyone anybody knows, but it's unlikely. But we're untapped potential, so we're about to expose ourselves to the world with this. But yeah, it made sense. I wanted to do it for a bit of fun, as you say. It's good. It's the bucket list thing. It's also useful, I think, for my job and career to really understand the emotions, I guess, that go through a rally weekend and all this kind of stuff. But I wanted to do it with somebody that, like I say, I could have found somebody more experienced, but then if I didn't know them click as well, it may wouldn't be as fun. And I reckon it's probably going to be a once in a lifetime thing, this for me. So yeah, fun was the important thing. And yeah, we'll see what we can do. But I don't know if you boys have seen, tonight is, we're recording this seeded entry list came out a couple hours before. And I've got some work to do because they put me at the very, very back of the field, literally the last car before all the Land Rovers. So I can't expect anything else, but we've got some points to prove, I think.
But you know, the Jim Clark is one of those emotive rallies that conjures up so many memories and so many. Like even last year, you know, we think of what happened with Oisin Price and all that. Then too, it's just one of those events that there's always a story to it. And like you're going to help create a story this year.
Well, we'll see. We'll see about that. I very much doubt I'll be part of the story. But you're right. I say I'm a bit biased. I see the event differently to others. But yeah, it's one of the most challenging in the UK. It still is. It used to have the distinction of being the only one on Coles Road tarmac. That obviously isn't the case anymore. But it's got that history that no other rally like it in Irish shores does. So yeah, I think it'll be a good battle. There's a lot of good names there, not least Mr. FOMO at the front of the field, who I suspect will be very hard to beat. But Keith Cronin's done well at this rally in the past, was very quick last year. So I actually think he could spring a couple of surprises. I don't think Formula will have it easy at the front. I'll be watching from the very back of the field. They'll come in to service just when I'm leaving, and I'll wave to them and see how they're getting on. But yeah, it should be a good weekend, I think, for everybody.
And like in your own class, you know, we have the Irish guys going over, Kyle McBride, Kyle White, and also then a Scot/stroke Aussie guy coming over to give you a wee shout as well. You spoke to him in Donegal last year.
I did, yeah, Max McRae, backed by Dirtfish, of course. I've got to get that in there. But yeah, no, that's really exciting. I think it's going to be great for the other guys in the class to have that, because as you say, he's sort of untapped territory a little bit on tarmac. He's not done as much maybe some of the others do, but he's Max McRae. So we know how good he is. We know what sort of benchmark and what gravitas the name has. So I think for these guys, it's just another added dimension. But just speaking of Kyle White for a second, I did jokingly try and make a bet with him. I said 50 quid and says you'll be quicker than me. And he didn't accept me on that. And I thought I was going to make £50, but no, he didn't want to have that. So, Kyle, if you are listening, the offer is still open. If you fancy,
you have him scared. You got inside his head.
That's some mind games you're playing already.
That's it. You never know.
This is watching all those old RPM things. You're going back to the old Nesbitt Donnelly days. You're trying to work head games.
This is Sebastian Ogier territory here.
That's it. Well, you know what? Any comparison you're making to me to those boys, I'll take it. I don't mind what context.
Yes. So I think we'll wrap it up at that. So that was episode 14, season 2. Can you please, forgot to say, like, share, subscribe, rate, all those things. Gratefully appreciated. Please keep watching and listening to the numbers you've been doing. It's been a pleasure as always. Luke and Connor, thanks very much, and bye.